Thank you for joining the Free Time Mastermind podcast. I'm your host, Robert Gaines. And I think one of the toughest things about being a podcaster, particularly in the business space, is I have to be critical about certain things, but I don't want to be discouraging. So I've given myself some rules about when and where to be critical. And one of the big things is the difference between punching up and punching down. So I would never be critical of a small entrepreneur just starting out, because the challenges are already tough enough and you don't want to discourage somebody very early on their journey. However, if a company is a multi-billion-dollar international conglomerate, yes, so that's where I tend to level my criticism if they're not doing the right thing, because they definitely should know better. They have departments that should know better. They have management that should know better. So today we're going to talk about audiobooks, writing books, audio quality, and I want you to start off by listening to this example, because this is an actual audiobook for sale on audible.com.
Provide an assessment or test provide an assessment or test that a reader can take to determine his strengths, weaknesses.
What's unique about that is it's so jarring and so obvious that it's an error that I'm a little surprised that in the proofreading or the proof listening section, when they did the editing, that should have been caught. It's very late in the book, and there's actually another error in that same chapter. Let me throw it in here before we go to the next part.
Bottom line is to develop a launch that helps you achieve your business objectives. The bottom line is to develop a launch that helps you achieve your business objectives, even if you're doing it differently.
I'm not punching down on some independent author who's struggling. This is a book co-written by Dan Kennedy, the direct marketing genius. This guy's books are fantastic, and this book is fantastic, and I encourage you to buy it. I think it's a wonderful book. It was published in 2014. It is published by Advance Media Group. I'm looking at it now, and the narrator is Adam Whitty, who, according to his profile on Audible, he's narrated, I think, a total of 6 titles, including this one. I wouldn't say that he's a professional narrator because I don't see him doing a whole bunch of other people's books. So there are some narrators out there that they have these magical voices and they do dozens and dozens of books. So I'm not saying he's a bad narrator. That's not bad narration. That's bad editing. So that's just post-production. Anything after you do the recording is called post-production, and they didn't do any quality control in post-production. There were a couple of other errors earlier in the book, but they weren't as egregious as these. I do encourage you to get the book, because the book is about authors and using a book to establish yourself and your brand and to make money in other ways beyond just selling the book. So I think the information is excellent. The book got a 4.7 on Audible, so it's definitely earned its audience. So for you folks that are thinking about writing a book or publishing a book, you absolutely should. You absolutely should narrate your own audiobook. I've got a free group on Facebook and on LinkedIn where I can talk you through the process. I just helped another author get their book up on Amazon for the very first time, going through the KDP process. If you're going to do an audiobook, it's going to be through Amazon's ACX process. There's these standards that it needs to meet, but I'll be shooting videos on that later on too, going behind the scenes because I'm currently almost finished narrating the second edition of my first book. So I'm not beating up on Adam Whitty, but I am beating up on Dan Kennedy because he's the rich guy. He did put his name on this. He's a millionaire. And I'm beating up on Advantage Media Group, this publishing company, that this book should have never seen the light of day with this many mistakes. And I challenge anybody to listen to my audiobook and to try to find anything that's this egregious. And I'm not a millionaire and I'm not internationally known. So don't let imperfection stop you from trying something. Just know that there are people out there that are millionaires releasing audiobooks with this many flaws. And I won't mention the title because I don't want it to seem like I'm beating up on the Dan Kennedy organization, which I think actually Russell Brunson owns a lot of this intellectual property now. So I'm not beating up on him either. But they did just release another book. I think it was released this month. It's a dynamite book. I won't mention the title because I've got some negative things to say about it. I think it's chapter 6 of that audiobook is repeated as chapter 7. So technically it's either missing a whole chapter or it's got one additional chapter because they repeated one twice. You shouldn't even be able to get out of quality control and a whole chapter be repeated. Even in my small little audiobook operation, that mistake just couldn't happen. We have systems in place here to ensure that does not happen. Everything goes through so much vetting that it's just simply not possible. Don't be a perfectionist, but don't put things out like this either. I don't do anything outside of having some type of structural system. So when I write every day, that happens at a specific time. I do it in a specific way, and you'll have a lot more success and have a lot less embarrassment if you have a system, as long as you're trying to do your best. I want to give you a really positive example. Let me share with you a book that just came out yesterday, and I had the privilege of interviewing one of the authors, but let me give you this clip real quick. All right, let's see if I can narrate this at the same time. So here we go. We're on the audible.com website, which is owned by Amazon, and we're looking at the book After Escobar by Chris Feistel, Dave Mitchell, and Jessica Balboni. Now, Chris was a guest on the Free Time Mastermind podcast. It was a very popular episode. People really enjoyed it. It was a definitely change of pace for us as a business podcast. I love nonfiction. For this book, you're getting a lot of book for the money. As you can see, this is 12 hours and 44 minutes. Starts off with this really deep dive about the Pablo Escobar drug cartel, which is a necessary historical deep dive. And then the part of the book that I really enjoy is when it gets into Chris and Dave's adventures going after the Cali cartel. And it really exciting. So I wanted to share with you this preview of the book, of the audiobook. The narrator is Robert Fass. So before we get into the book, let's look at Robert Fass's history as a narrator. Now, this guy, unlike the other gentleman I mentioned earlier, this guy is a professional narrator. He's got 16 pages of books that he's narrated, and you're going to notice instantly a quality difference level here. So here we go. Let's see if we can get this through the video.
Chris and Dave deplaned. I spotted the pair immediately. Chris looked like a card-carrying member of the World Surf League, while Dave could easily have been mistaken for a professional football player. In the early 1990s, Colombia was an extremely hostile environment for American drug agents, particularly for young blonde ones standing over 6 feet tall. The sheer impossibility for them to be inconspicuous made me concerned about how they'd fare operating in the hermetic, perilous city of Cali.
That's how a professional does it. The narrator, just an amazing job. Unlike in the Dan Kennedy situation, I'm sorry, Adam Whitty, Adam's not a professional narrator compared to this guy. This Robert is doing a really great job, and the book is professional throughout. I have maybe an hour left of this book, so I've already gotten 11 hours deep into it, and Robert's narration has been flawless throughout. I mean, he really puts you there, especially in the last half of the book where the action really starts to ramp up. It's exciting, very, very exciting. So this book, highly recommended, especially if you're into this genre. And also shout out to Jessica Balboni. I have not had an opportunity to interview her, but I understand she was heavily involved in putting this book together and making it happen. And Dave Mitchell, we're both from the same town of Louisville, Kentucky, which I didn't know until I read the book, and hopefully get him on the channel here soon. So exciting new audiobook for those of you always looking for a good one. This is on audible.com. The main title is After Escobar, and this is a hybrid audio publication, and I think it was a different publisher that did the print book, but if you're into the print book, it's got exactly the same title. Thank you, Chris, for coming on the show, and you've got an amazing book here. And of course, to help the folks that produce the books, I'm going to write a review. It really helps these authors. So if you do get a copy of this book or the audiobook, which I encourage you to, please leave a positive review for these guys. The reviews really help sell these books. And right now, I don't think the book, since it just came out yesterday, it doesn't have any positive reviews. So mine will be the first, and I'll write that tomorrow once I'm completely finished with the book and I can give them a real comprehensive overview. There's a really funny part of the book in After Escobar that was a phrase that sometimes I heard when I was in the Army. And at one point, their supervisor tells them, "Don't do any cowboy shit." which translates, don't go outside of the regulations or the rules to get things done. I don't want to ruin any surprises, but they really play by the rules and they get very frustrated. Then they start looking at some unique ways to handle some problems. So get a copy of After Escobar. The second half of the book is a wild ride. I actually can't wait to finish this editing, get this video up so I can go back to the audiobook. That's it on that part. Don't do any cowboy shit. And it's tough narrating an audiobook, and for the people that are interested in doing that, I am going to have more instructional information about that. I've never really showed what the studio looks like because I'm in a sound dampened room. I've got these big lights on me, and this is also where I record. This is the exact place where I record the audiobook, and I'm very picky about making sure that the mic is always in the same position relative to my mouth. And like I said, that's a whole other video. I do encourage people to write a book, and if you write one and you publish it, you might as well narrate your own audiobook. A shout out to Robert Lane, who's an audiobook coach. If you have no experience at all, or you need a strong mentor to help you narrate your own audiobook, he offers that service. I just provide the basic free information to get you up and running, but if you really want to do it professional, Robert Lane is the guy to go to, and he's a great guy. He was also a guest on the channel as well. Until next time, thank you so much.